All right, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco. The Dow continues to stay in an area where, in my view, it is overbought. If you're looking at your portfolio, I don't think you should get too happy with yourself. And I've been saying for quite some time now, there's an old saying on Wall Street, you can't fight the Fed. So as long as the Fed is pumping more capital into the markets, they're buying corporate bonds, they have a treasury facility, as long as they're doing that, the market has some artificial insemination in it. Okay, I personally think to get back to a truly free market, we need to get the Fed out of it materially. We need to clean out some of that stuff, which could bring the market down as low as 19,000. And then we will have really good support, in my view. But the Fed is one of the most dangerous operations on earth, if you ask me. And someone who knows about the Fed a lot more than me joins us right now. Dr. Murray Sabrin is with us. He's a regular here on Liquid Lunch, professor of finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey, author of the book so aptly named, Why the Federal Reserve Sucks. Murray, why does the Fed suck?
Well, as the subtitle points out, it causes inflation, recessions, bubbles, and enriches the 1%. The Fed, believe it or not, is the greatest creator of income inequality in the country. And I wish the people who are making the loudest noise about income inequality would march to the Eccles building in Washington, D.C., where the Federal Reserve is located, and say, stop inflating the supply of money, which causes income to be redistributed from low and middle income families to upper income families. That's the nature of money printing. It's been going on for the 100 years plus that the Federal Reserve has been in existence.
Murray, give me your take on what we're seeing in terms of these riots around the country. How does that play in, if at all, with kind of the economic tumult that we're seeing around the country as well?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now is a continuation of really 100 years of leftist progressives trying to take control of the federal government. And quite frankly, they've been successful. You look at all the things that have been enacted for the past 100 years, it fits in line with the Socialist Party platform of the 1920s, which is remarkable. Most people don't even know that. If you go back and read the Socialist Party platform, they wanted more welfare spending. They wanted Social Security. They wanted national health care. We're almost there with Medicare and Medicaid. They wanted regulation of business. And this is really a cultural revolution, an economic revolution. These people hate private property. So we saw the looting. That's an example of hating private property. We saw the people taking things that don't belong to them. That's part of the entitlement state. So you have all these cultural, psychological factors being into play here. And we're seeing this in a perfect storm being created. The Federal Reserve inflating like crazy, the federal government spending like crazy, and social unrest that we've never seen in this country before, probably since, I guess, the Civil War.
So, Doc, let me ask you this. I think there's an old quote out there, some attributed to de Tocqueville. I think, Reagan has repeated it. But, democracy only works until the people realize they can vote themselves money out of the Treasury. Just a couple of months ago, it seemed to me like the Treasury did a hostile takeover on the Fed when they set up this special purpose vehicle that the Treasury would fund so the Fed can buy commercial paper and also junk bonds, which is crazy. With the things you're talking about, they're so on point. The unrest, the lending of exorbitant amounts of money to the upper middle class and upper class, banks, businesses, and otherwise. And at the same time, while the unrest is trying to extract all these other things out of the government to calm down, the middle class guy has his business locked. So aren't we in really an exponential explosion of the income inequality gap? Because small businesses are shut while the government is lending money to rich people and giving more social programs to the poorest of people.
Nearly 30 years ago, I coined a term which I think is most apropos for where we are in now. We're in a high-tech banana republic. We have spending through the roof, we have money printing through the roof, and we have social unrest. That's what you typically see in a banana republic. The only thing that's missing now is accelerating inflation. And I think that's coming because we were in a store the other day, my wife and I, a local store that's almost like Zabar's in New York City. And my wife said, prices have really gone up in the last few months that we were there. So we're starting to see price inflation accelerating. We're seeing prices come down, obviously, in the hospitality industry because they've been shut down, airlines and hotels and things like that. But ordinary things that we buy, they're going up. Gasoline prices are starting to creep up after they collapsed because of the lockdown across the country. So all the ingredients are in place for a 1970s style inflation of double-digit inflation. I wouldn't be surprised if we get there next year, if not sooner.
Wow. What effect do you think this is going to have politically, Murray? I know that you're a libertarian, you're not a fan of either major political party, but does the economic unrest and the unrest that we're seeing in the streets play to the advantages of the Republicans, the Democrats, a third party? How do you see it playing out politically?
This is such a, as they say, I don't want to skirt the issue, but this is such a fluid situation. Here it is in June, the election's November. A lot can happen between now and November. What is Biden's health going to be? Who is his vice president pick going to be? What will the economy look like in the heartland states that Trump desperately has to win in order to get reelected? So there are so many moving parts here, and it's hard to make a forecast right now as to what's going to happen in November. All I know is in 2016, a week before the election, I was on a Connecticut radio show, and I said, it looks like Trump is going to win, even though he was down by 10 points in the polls a week before the election. So it seems that the pollsters were not picking up the sentiment that was going around the country, and I think that could be happening this time around. We'll just have to see how it plays out with the economy, with the virus, with the unrest in the cities. And I'm just hopeful that things settle down, because in a nation of 330 million people, we really can't take constant conflict, because that is just not good for the economy. It's not good for people's mental state. I mean, I speak to people all the time, and people are really upset, no matter where you are in the political spectrum, because things are so unnerved in this country. Now you've got viruses spiking in the southern states, and people have been dying needlessly because of what Cuomo did and what Murphy did regarding the COVID positive patients in nursing homes. So 16 years ago, guys, I gave a talk at a local college entitled The Coming Collapse of the Welfare Warfare State. I think that's where we are now. All big government programs are failing financially, morally, intellectually, and it's just a matter of who's going to pick up the pieces in this decade, because this is a crucial decade, because this decade, the 2020s, will determine, I believe, what America will look like for the rest of the century. And I have a prediction out there, given what's been happening for the past 40 years. I don't think America can survive as one nation of 50 states. I made that prediction last October in my farewell address, and I think it's coming true. I think by 2050, Frank, you'll see this very clearly, I think we may have 4 or 5 different countries emerging out of the United States, just as the Soviet Union had, 8 countries emerging out of the old Soviet Union, with Russia being obviously the largest.
Murray, we're short on time, but I do want to ask you, today is June 19th. It's now a state holiday for New York State employees. There's a huge push to make it a national holiday, Juneteenth, commemorating the emancipation of black slaves in America. What's your view in terms of making a federal holiday of Juneteenth?
I have no particular view about it one way or the other. All I say is that we should all tone down the rhetoric, look at people from an individual perspective, make sure that people have the right values in order to participate in our economy, which means you've got to go to school, you got to get educated if you don't go to school, and be a productive, independent, financially strong human being. I think that's what we all want for our kids and grandkids, and I think the president has the opportunity to use the bully pulpit to get that message out, that in a nation of 330 million people have different values, they have different goals, they have different perspectives. Let's think about race as an identity, not as a social construct that we have to use the political power of the government to enforce some sort of nebulous concept of racial justice. We all believe in justice. We all want to be treated respectfully, and the police should be treated respectfully as well.
All right, Dr. Sabrin, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. For those of you watching at home, go out and check out Dr. Sabrin's book, Why the Federal Reserve Sucks. Great read and great guy. Have a good weekend, Doc. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John, and congratulations, Frank.
Thank you very much.
So we'll just just wrapping it up here for segment 2. Now, Frank and I are going to come back. I don't know if Frank can hear me right now, but...
yeah, I hear you.
Oh, he does hear me now. Okay, fine. Be like that. I was going to try to have a heart-to-heart with our audience right there because I thought Jess muted you for a moment, but there are a number of tremendous athletes in life that have wore a very unique number, and I'm going to outline who they are and what their number is right after this.